This is the ICO Alert Podcast, episode 15. I'm your host, Robert Finch, founder of ICO Alert. ICO Alert maintains the only comprehensive list of every single initial coin offering. That includes all of the active ICOs that are happening now, as well as all of the upcoming ICOs. You can check out the full list on our website at icoalert.com. My guests today are two members of the Playkey team. We have Egor Gurjev, the CEO of Playkey, and Roman Epishin, the CMO of Playkey. During the podcast, we'll talk about the Playkey platform, why they're decentralizing their currently centralized service that has more than 100,000 paying users, what their vision of the future sharing economy looks like, and more. Without further ado, let's get to it. Egor and Roman, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. That's a great opportunity for us.
Yeah, it's exciting to have you. I have a lot I want to talk about your platform. But first, for our listeners who aren't familiar, could you talk a little bit about Playkey and what you guys are trying to accomplish?
So Playkey is a gaming platform that solves the biggest problem on the gaming market, is that 80% of gamers, they're not able to play top-end game titles because their computer is obsolete or low-end, and they just don't have enough money to upgrade their computer or make these upgrades every year. So that's the biggest challenge on the gaming market. And there are like 2 billion gamers in the world, and you see that 80% of them are really struggling because of their low-end devices. So the Playkey solves this solution by launching the game in the cloud and then stream it like a video to the end-user device, to the PC, Mac, or smart TV, or Android set-top box, wherever. So all the rendering and all the calculations are in the cloud, so you can play on any device top-end game titles without upgrading and wasting money on a new computer.
Okay, so you're essentially allowing people to play any video game on your server, and then they're just kind of streaming it to their screen?
So we are providing our gamers a powerful server that is currently leased by ourselves or owned by ourselves. So we give the gamer like a virtual machine with a great graphic card, with a lot of RAM and CPU power, so you can launch any game you want and play it with great quality and high resolution.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. So how does that work? I mean, how do you prevent there from being a ton of latency and from the platform lagging? Like, how do you play a game in real time on a computer that's, maybe hundreds of miles away from you?
So if the server is located inside your country, that works really great. You have the latency maximum like 5 milliseconds. So if the server is a bit far away, the latency will increase. But it's fully playable within the radius of like 5,000 kilometers from where the server and where the gamer are located. And our plans regarding the decentralization is to increase the quality of our product for gamers, because the miners will be available to host our game sessions and then share their resources with the gamer.
Oh, okay, very cool. And let's talk about that, because I think a lot of the ICOs that we bring on this podcast generally haven't launched any version of their platform in the past, especially not a centralized version. But what's unique about Playkey is that you guys already have, if I'm understanding correctly, more than 100,000 paying subscribers. And this ICO is kind of to move you guys from a centralized platform to a decentralized platform. So my question is, if your platform is already working really well as a centralized platform, you have 100,000 people who are paying you to use it, why are you trying to decentralize? Like, what benefits are you going to get from decentralization?
Well, yeah, I think Roma can add.
Yeah, I can add. Well, first of all, the speed of scaling. For now, it's really long process for us to bring our service to other markets. And the problem is not in advertising or marketing or something. The problem is in servers logistics. When this platform is centralized, we have to find these servers on the market, somehow buy it or rent it, and somehow delivered to the data center in that country where we are going to launch our service. And this process really takes months, not even weeks, but months.
Wow.
And also it's, well, really expensive when we should pay for this ourselves in advance, always in advance, and it will increase cost for end users. And this is not the way we are going to go. That's why we are hoping to decentralize all this process, because when one user can play on the PC of other user, so gamer plays on the PC of miner, he can choose the server closest to his location, and he will receive excellent quality, and a lot of miners spread all over the world will allow us to move much more faster and bring this unique opportunity to play on any obsolete device in a really cool high-tech games for millions of users.
Okay, that's awesome. So you guys are essentially allowing anyone to kind of lease their computing power to the network, and then anybody can use that to play a high-end video game.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is the core idea.
Okay, that's very cool. So that's very similar to something like Golem, I guess, that where you can use computing power, where you guys are kind of using it for video games, so more of the graphics card. That's awesome. When somebody does that, so if I lease my computing power to the network, like I have a big gaming computer set up in my house, if I say, okay, I want to contribute that to Playkey, how does that process work, and do I get rewarded for it?
Yeah, sure. So you sign the smart contract with the gamer, and you get like 75% of all the cost of this transaction, and you define the cost of this transaction yourself. So that means if you want to have more customers, in this case you can make the price lower, or you can join the preferred prices that will be available on our website. So after that, you will sign the smart contract. If you will satisfy and fulfill all the requirements of the smart contract, you will be paid in tokens.
Oh, okay, very cool. So what happens, let's say like I'm essentially hosting my computer on Playkey, letting other people play on it. What happens if suddenly like my power goes out, or I turn off my computer, or I want to play a game and I just like cut off Playkey? Does the person that was playing a game on my computer suddenly get cut off as well, or are they kind of spread across multiple computers?
In this case, the smart contract won't be executed. So in this case, you won't be paid. It's same like if you're like a taxi driver and you decided to just stop finishing your ride with the customer and tell him he'll get out from the car.
Okay.
So that means we have to develop the special service level agreements with miners and be sure that they will fulfill the smart contract.
Okay, that's a great idea. So it's kind of time-based in a way? Like I could say, oh, I want to lease that computer for 3 hours, and if they don't fulfill the full 3 hours, I get my money back.
Yeah, Roma?
Yeah, absolutely. We can say in details how the smart contract will be tuned up, but the logic is absolutely correct. All the terms will be announced before the smart contract is signed by both sides. So the core idea is that end user will receive full scale of service, and if not, smart contract is terminated, and miner can't earn.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So does this work for consoles as well? Like if I have a PS4 or an Xbox One or some kind of gaming console rather than a computer, can I lease that to the network, or does it only work for PC games?
So on the current stage, we are focused on the PCs. We're thinking about like making the share economy model with the gaming consoles, but this will come in the future because the PC market is really huge and the problem is really challenging. So you can just go to the Steam hardware survey, just type this in the Google, and you will see all the data of the Steam customers. You will see exactly that lots of Steam users, they're not able to launch their game titles because of they just don't have enough graphic power on their computer.
Yeah, I mean, if this works, it'll be awesome for me. Like I said, I have a gaming PC, but one of my really good friends who I've known since kindergarten, since we were just really, really little kids, we play video games together all the time. But unfortunately, his computer is getting older and it's slower and it's hard to play competitively online. So if he could, for example, use Playkey and then access a really powerful computer that he could play on, it would be awesome if this works. Is this something that's been around for a long time? Like, have you been testing this over a year? Or is it something that's a bit more recent? Like, my question is basically, how much have you tested the platform to ensure that it works?
So we started the development of this platform about 4 years ago, and about 2 years we are in commercial in Europe. So we have 100,000 paying customers in Europe. That means we have tested a lot of different hypotheses how to make this service much better. So I mean that we face a lot of troubles with encoding the video, with capturing the frames of the game by sending these frames to the end user device, decoding them. So yeah, we face a lot of challenges. I think that we have invested several $1 million in our current gaming service. So yeah, that's not easy. It's really hard business.
Yeah, that's crazy. So if I want to, for example, play a game on a PC, like right now when I play on the gaming PC at my house, I have to go in. Generally, when I install a new game, it's like maybe 5-10 gigabytes. So it takes a while for me to install it and get it all set up. How does that work with this? Like, do I have to request that someone installs the video game I want to play on their computer before I can actually play it?
We suppose that miners will have some pre-installed bundles. So, for example, we will offer the most playing games, the list of most playing games, and the majority of miners, I suppose, will choose these games to be installed, so gamers could have a quick access. The core idea is that gamer shouldn't wait while some miner on the other part of the world or in the other city will install something for him. No, everything will be pre-installed. Also, miner can choose, well, less popular games to be installed and try to attract the lovers of these specific games, and maybe this will be his advantage against other miners or competitors, a competitive advantage. So this is how it works. The games will be pre-installed to miners' machines.
Okay, cool. So if I wanted to play a new game, I could just kind of request somebody to pick it up and they would install it and I could go from there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we will provide the fresh titles. We'll inform miners that yes, we have this game, that game, and you should install it because there will be demand. So.
Okay, that's cool. And the one big question I had, digital rights management, or DRM, is a pretty big thing in the video game industry. In the past, we would just kind of go out and you buy like a physical disc to play a video game, and you could then sell that disc to other people, but generally there's some kind of online key that you need to activate the game to actually play it online. So let's say if I want to play Grand Theft Auto 5, for example, and I request somebody who has that game, do I actually have to buy Grand Theft Auto 5 to play it, or is that one person just kind of leasing out access to that game?
You have to own the game. So because the publishers, they want to stay in the current business model. Yeah. So that means if the game should be activated in Steam or like Rockstar Social Club, as an example with the GTA 5 or Uplay or Origin from Electronic Arts, so you have to own this game, and you need your own Steam account to access and start playing the game. If the game is like free to play, like most of the MMO games, so in this case you don't need to pay. You just need to sign the contract with the miner and take his resources and start playing the game without buying it, if the game is free to play.
Okay, that makes sense. And how does the security portion of this work? So like you mentioned MMOs, so if I'm logging into something like World of Warcraft or something else where the currency in these games actually has real world value. And because of that, a lot of people try to, steal logins for different accounts. If I'm logging into, say, World of Warcraft on someone else's computer, are they able to intercept that and access my account, or is it encrypted or secure in some way?
Yeah, sure. It's fully secured by our software. The miner won't be able to cheat and hack your account for 100%.
Okay. And going back to your point about, publishers want to keep the same business model. I think it's interesting because, like I was saying, I mean, we've seen several different changes in business models, from actually going out and buying a disc to now on consoles and on a lot of PCs, you just buy the game online and download it and install it right there. Do you think if Playkey is successful enough that you could actually convince these game developers to kind of do game distribution on a streaming basis, kind of like a Netflix for video games, where, Netflix started out just shipping physical CDs to people's houses, and now you can stream really any movie or any TV show. Do you guys foresee something like that with gaming, where rather than anybody having to actually buy a game, they could go in and just say, oh, I want to play Grand Theft Auto 4 or Grand Theft Auto 5 for a couple hours, I'm going to pay, $1 to the publisher, and the other $1 is going to go to the person running the computer? Is that something you guys foresee?
Yes, this is absolutely possible. The only thing we need to make this change is a bit more weight. I mean, the whole current market is a great amount of money, great amount of companies, and to change the business model in general, we need to have more weight in our servers, more users, more miners, more players.
Right.
And this is why we are going to scale it in tens and dozens, in hundreds of times, and then this is absolutely possible.
Awesome. I noticed on your roadmap, speaking of, getting more weight, getting more users, 25% of the funds that you guys raise in the ICO have been allocated to go towards marketing to, quote, acquire 10 million new players. So, Roman, since you're the chief marketing officer, how do you guys plan on accomplishing 10 million new players? I mean, that's a huge amount of people.
Well, yes, this is a huge amount of people, but the size of the market, the volume of the market allows us to reach this amount of people. And actually, we are going to build our marketing strategy in two ways. The first part is PR activities to get strong brand and high brand awareness on the markets. Well, actually, we are aiming on North America, Latin America, Asia, and Europe as core markets, 4 core markets. And the second part of our marketing strategy is direct advertising. We use, general channels like search advertising, like CPA networks, like Facebook, Twitter, and other social networks. And for funds raised during ICO, for that part that we allocate to marketing, we are going to reach 1 million users during first year from the moment when our decentralized platform is online. And in the following 2 years, we are going to reach the point of 10 million players in our ecosystem.
Wow, that's huge. I mean, that's a huge amount of people, but I think it's definitely possible. I mean, you mentioned the size of the market. I was pretty surprised. I mean, I'm a big video game fan myself, as you probably gathered. But I was surprised there are 2.2 billion gamers in the world, which is crazy because there are still several billion people in the world out of 7 or 8 billion people that don't have access to the internet. So of all the people that have access to the internet, I mean, a huge percentage of them are gamers that are playing video games. It mentions on your website it's a $109 billion annual industry, the video game industry. How much are you guys planning to make off of these 10 million people? Like, how much does the service cost now as a centralized service, and how much will it cost me if I play video games, an hour every day? How much is it going to cost me as a user to actually use Playkey?
So right now we have the prices starting from $1 per hour. And if you want to have a monthly subscription, you pay about like $10 per hour up to $20 per hour, depending on the quality of the server you want to use. So if you want to, a month, yeah, a month. Yeah, a month. So if you want to play with the 60 frames per second with the ultra high-end quality, you need to purchase the top tier subscription if you want to save your money or you're not so a hardcore gamer, so you can just play with a 30 frames per second with a lower than a full HD resolution. So depending on your requirements, you can pay different numbers. We have also weekly packages that are about like $5 per week. So everything is flexible. I mean that you can choose what you really want depending on how often you play, how long do you play, which games do you like to play. Yeah, so it's really convenient.
Yeah, I mean $5 a week sounds pretty great, but the $10 or $20 an hour seems very expensive. Is that just for?
No, it's $10 to $20 per month. It's not per hour.
Oh, per month. Okay.
So, yeah,
I was gonna say because $20 an hour. I mean that would be ridiculous. You would just buy a gaming PC. So that makes sense. 10 or 20 a month.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's in line with a lot of the subscriptions for online games. So for ones that require a payment every month. So I mean that makes a ton of sense. If I can play all the different games I own for only 10 or 20 bucks a month, that sounds like a great deal. And obviously much cheaper than buying a new PC every 2 or 3 years. It's interesting. I mean, are there limits to the hardware that I can run Playkey on? Like, could I go out and buy an old $100 laptop and run a Playkey game on that?
Yes, sure.
Okay, so my computer could be just terrible. I basically just need a screen and a keyboard to make it work.
Yeah, you're right. So you don't need you don't need the graphic card inside your computer because all the rendering, all the calculations, all the processing of the game is in the cloud. So if your device is capable to display the video, like a YouTube video, then it will work fine for you.
Yeah, actually, this is the main criteria. If you can watch YouTube via the internet on your device, on your laptop or notebook, etc., then you can use Playkey service.
Okay, that's awesome. That's super powerful. I mean, it may be something where, like, if this is actually a good service, if the latency really is only 5 milliseconds, I mean, I could see a lot of people selling their gaming PCs and then just subscribing to this and playing from a worse computer.
Yeah. No. I think don't think about selling their PC, but they just won't save the money on upgrading their computer.
Oh, that's a great point as well.
Yeah, they just won't do it in the future, so it will save them like billions of dollars, I think, which they can invest somewhere else, and that's a great.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was looking to see if anybody else was trying to do something like this, and I found one other company, NVIDIA, who makes graphics cards. They have a program called GeForce Now. It's based on like the NVIDIA GeForce graphics cards. Do you all see them as a real competitor, even though they're a centralized service?
Yeah, in future they can make the service very close to us, but we see that the attraction is really poor. So they spend about 2 years on making their own gaming console, and we see that the sales of this gaming console is really poor because it costs like $200. I think it's really close to the Xbox or PS4. And they haven't released the version for the PCs right now, so they have a beta only for Mac. So I think it's for NVIDIA, it's really hard to make the software because the company is focused on developing the graphic cards, and things don't go right with GeForce Now.
Oh, okay.
The interesting thing, sorry, I add a bit. The interesting thing is that our current centralized service, Playkey, has some potential competitors, like, GeForce Now from NVIDIA, though it has some real problems Igor mentioned. But as for decentralized platform, for now, we don't see any potential competitors who would pretend to fight with us for this market, for this idea to be realized.
Okay, interesting. And it's, I think a lot of people listening might go, "Oh, NVIDIA, I mean, they're a huge company, and maybe they haven't heard of Playkey, and they think it's kind of crazy that Playkey could accomplish this, but NVIDIA can't." But when I was looking through your team, I noticed you have some pretty impressive members. You have advisors from Epic Games, which is a huge, very famous game studio. Advisors from Xsolla, I believe it is, Xsolla. I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
But also relatively big in the gaming industry. They're more of a software as a service layer for, I believe, buying in-game items or something like that. My question for you all is, how did you and your team, go from gaming to cryptocurrency? When did you discover cryptocurrency and the fact that you could run an ICO?
We started getting a deep dive inside this technology latest 2016 year, and this year I think in May we understood that the blockchain provides us a really great opportunity that we can scale very fast. In case of that, we'll move to the peer-to-peer way of doing the business and making the smart contracts between gamers and miners. So we started making everything for ICO in May. So we spent about several months on the legal part. We hired Deloitte. We formed our advisors board, and we developed the white paper. Yeah, so it took a really long time to make a really great ICO.
Okay. Yeah, and our CTO, Alexei, started even earlier. I suppose it's a pity he's missed this call. And he even had his own mining farm, so he really dove deep into details before we started to build a business on it. He personally was passionate with blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies.
Okay, very cool. So your team does have some experience with crypto before you discovered ICOs.
Yeah, right.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's interesting how there's kind of this theme in ICOs right now, or I guess in technology in general, where a lot of things are just following a rental model rather than an ownership model. So what I mean by that, like when you see Uber, right now it's actually becoming more affordable to take, an Uber everywhere rather than to actually own your own car. In a lot of cities, it already is more affordable. In many more, it will be soon, as soon as the self-driving Ubers are allowed to go out. I live in Pittsburgh, and there are actually self-driving Ubers on the road here. They still have people in them to take over if anything goes wrong. But it'll be interesting to see how the world kind of moves towards this rental model rather than an ownership model. And what I kind of wanted to ask you guys about is, what do you see as the vision of the future rental economy? Do you think we won't even have computers at all? Maybe everybody will use a service like Playkey to not only play video games, but also to do anything else that they need, a lot of computing power for. What are your thoughts on all of that?
Yeah, I think that the shared economy is the only way for our civilization to grow further, because we have so many people on this planet, and really we don't have enough resources. If you want to scale further, we have to use these resources very wisely. So that means there is no sense to produce the computer, to spend energy on making the computer, if you will use all the power of this computer just like 1% of its lifetime.
Right.
So I think the shared economy is really the future. It started from the offline businesses and taxis and renting the flats, houses, and right now it's moving into the IT industry very fast. Yeah, you're right. So what for to spend your money on upgrading your computer every year if you use it like only several hours a week? So it's better to save this money and invest them somewhere else. I know, in the education, buying the books, so going to the vacation, wherever. And we are trying to help our gamers to do that. So that's our vision. So we think that you will be able to play if you only have a display, and all the rendering and processing of the software will be in the cloud, because it really saves a lot of money for our current world.
Yeah, it's such a cool concept, and it's cool that the platform actually works now. It's not just some futuristic concept. Like, you guys already have a system that does this. But it's interesting. I mean, I agree with you. I don't think a future where, we just have screens is that far away, to the point where, you might not even buy an Apple computer. You may just buy an Apple screen or something that connects you to this global supercomputer through Golem or Playkey or something like that. So it's really interesting. Roman, do you share the same thought on that, or do you want to expand on that at all?
Well, I don't think I can expand something. The main idea is that this vision is proved already by living examples like car sharing, like flat sharing, and so on. So yeah, this is the future we are already moving to.
Yeah, that's great. So let's talk about your token model a little bit. So you guys obviously have an ICO coming up. Could you talk a little bit about when that starts and how people can join?
So right now we're on a pre-sale. We work with the VCs and blockchain funds and individuals who are looking forward to contribute large numbers. So we accept checks starting from 60 Ethereum and more. We provide special discounts for these contributors on the pre-sale, starting from 25% and up to 35%. We plan to launch the public ICO in November. Our current date is the 1st November. And yeah, so right now we are getting prepared very hard for making the ICO in November. So a lot of marketing. We spend hundred of the time on developing the product, and so making our business much more attractive to the investors.
Yeah, that's great. And you guys you'll have an Ethereum token, is that correct?
Yeah, we are making the token on Ethereum. It's fully utility, so the token will be used inside our current business. So we will migrate all the transactions that we have currently in dollars or in euro into the transactions in tokens. That means that we need 3 to 6 months to implement and tokenize our current business with the revenue, with the gamers, with the paying customers. And we believe that will be really helpful for not only for the gamer, but it will be really valuable for investor, because comparing with lots of, I think, hundreds with other ICOs who has only the landing page, we have a working business, and we can implement token very fast. So if the token will be used inside our platform, we believe that the price of the token will go up, and all our investors will be really satisfied.
Okay, great. And where can people try this? Like, is it possible for somebody who's interested in Playkey to actually download your software and try it out right now?
Playkey.net, and you can play. The only thing that it's better to be located in Europe, because from the US your experience may be a bit worse because of latency.
Okay, so all of your servers are located in Europe right now?
For now, yes. I suppose we have 1 or 2 servers like demo machines in US, but the majority really useful for playing servers there in Europe.
Okay, that makes sense. Then, like you said, it'll be great. As soon as you open this up to a global audience where anybody can add in their PC, I mean, you're going to very quickly have computers in every country, I'm sure. So that's a really interesting application for decentralization, because, there are a lot of companies that I think they see ICOs and they see all the money in this space and all the fundraising going on, and they just kind of force a reason to be decentralized. But I think you guys have a real benefit that you're gaining from being decentralized, the ability to scale very quickly. So it's awesome to see.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's a great feedback for us. We are really inspired when we hear such feedback from our customers, from our followers. It provide us with a lot of more motivation to continue and develop our product further. Yeah, that's really helpful.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I asked, why are you becoming decentralized? Why do you need a token, and all these kinds of questions? Because there's been a lot of criticism lately, in particular for bigger ICOs like Kik that launched the Kin token, where Kin already has a digital currency, if you want to call it that, in their app. It's totally centralized, but because it's centralized, it's super easy for all of their users to use. It's very easy to send. If they lose their password, they can recover it, et cetera, et cetera. But a lot of people were criticizing them and saying, look, you guys are just kind of forcing this token model in, because now a token and having to store a token securely is actually going to be harder for your users to use. Why do you guys need to do this? And they're also not decentralizing any of their platform. And it's not just Kin that's come under criticisms for that. There are many other ICOs, so I don't want to single them out. But like I said, it's always very refreshing to see somebody that's using it for a real benefit. Talking about your current roadmap, you said the current version is up now. If you're in Europe, it's very easy to play on your website. What does your roadmap look like for the next few years? When can I actually lease my computer to this? When can I use the decentralized version of this?
I suppose we'll need about half of the year till the end of ICO to show the first public version of decentralized platform. In my opinion, to be realistic, it may be in August or September of 2018.
Okay, that's not too bad. So to have everything up and running August of 2018?
Yeah, right.
Okay, great. Yeah, now I think would be a good time to talk about the Playkey Foundation. So one of the interesting aspects of ICOs that many people may not be familiar of, if you're new to the ICO space or the crypto space in general, is this concept of foundation. So there are a lot of foundations that kind of are the stewards for funds of different projects. So like Ethereum has a foundation, Bitcoin has a foundation, and it's this nonprofit foundation that kind of aims to, I guess, set out a roadmap for the different platforms that they support and kind of manage the funds in a way. Is the Playkey Foundation similar? Is that going to be the role of the Playkey Foundation?
So the main I think vector of this foundation is to develop the miners community. So we think that the miners community is really very important to grow this gaming business further. So we have to be sure that all the miners, they understand how everything works, so how they can start sharing their hardware with the gamers. And so we plan to develop special conferences for miners and help them in different ways to start sharing their hardware. And miners in different countries, we think that they will join our community and will push this business higher and higher. Because right now, the biggest challenge what we see is that we have more customers that we are able to afford from the server side. And we think that our proactive approach to the miners community will develop the miners in different parts of the world, that they will start sharing their hardware. The second thing for the foundation will be taking the decisions how the product shall look like. So what will be the pricing policy, in which countries, in which languages we shall start on the first stage, and on which screens shall we make our product available, on the smart TVs or on mobile or on the tablets. And we have really big plans to get the feedback from our customers, and the foundation will be responsible for talking and making the customer development with our audience and with miners community to hear people from both sides, from the side of the gamer and from the side of the miner. We also plan to implement some global initiatives, like working with the government authorities to make this more clear for the government in different countries. Because right now you see that the blockchain industry is not really accepted everywhere. So we are trying to make everything secured and to make all the government authorities really happy, because we save a lot of money for people. Then they can spend this money on some more things. That's our main intention of the foundation.
That's awesome. That sounds great. Roman, do you want to add to that?
Yeah. Also, about 20% of foundation revenue will be, of course, reinvested in marketing and, to be specific, in user acquisition. So we could inform more and more players all over the world that they have new opportunity, because if we don't do that, nobody knows that they can play without cool hardware, high-tech hardware.
Right, yeah. So when you say revenue for the foundation, is that 25% fee that you guys are taking? The 25% cut?
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean that.
Yeah, right, you're right.
It's awesome, though, that you guys will have a constant marketing budget, though, especially as the platform grows and you're making more and more money. I mean, that marketing budget could get pretty big, so maybe you will get to the point where you've scaled enough to have enough weight to fundamentally change the business model to streaming games like we were talking about.
Yeah, you're right. The marketing is really important, because the more we will have customers, the more we'll have transactions, and the higher will be the price of the token in this case, because the amount of the token is limited, and there won't be further emissions. So we will bring these 100 million tokens on the ICO, and there will be no further emissions.
That's awesome. So when you're talking about miners, then they're not actually mining new tokens; they're essentially just receiving tokens from other users that are leasing out their computer.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, but we just call it mining because in the current world, so people who own the hardware and graphic cards, they're called miners,
right? And
that means So here we have the same, and they get the reward by sharing their hardware with the current community, the blockchain community. So we have the same, but from the gamers community.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, I mean, that's a ton of info. I really appreciate it. I think that's probably a good place to stop. If there's anything we didn't cover that you guys want to talk about now, you have the floor. Go ahead. If not, I mean, if we covered everything, you're welcome to just plug your website and let people know where they can find out more about Playkey.
Yeah, so for us, it's really helpful when we receive the feedback from the community. So I advise everybody to join our Telegram and see what's going on inside. And it's really helpful, because we'd like to hear our potential customers. We'd like to hear gamers. We'd like to hear miners. And so we think that only in this case of this collaboration, we can bring a really valuable product that can be in high demand from both sides, from the side of the gamer and from the side of the miner. So we've got a lot of ideas, and we understand that perhaps not all of these ideas can be valuable for our community. So it will be great for us if there will be as much participants in our community as there could be, because based on the feedback from these people, we'll develop our product and we'll change our roadmap according to these demands.
That's awesome.
So you can find more information on playkey.io, and there are links to all our social channels. So welcome. Let's change the world together.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate both of you being on the podcast. Egor and Roman, best of luck with your project, and of course, best of luck with your ICO.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. Thank you, Robert. Yeah, that was really awesome to talk to you today.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I sincerely appreciate it. If you'd like to request someone to be on the podcast in the future, tweet us at ICO Alert and let us know. Most of our guests are requests from listeners just like you, so we review every single recommendation that comes through in our Twitter feed. We'll look at everything. So if there's a lesser-known project that you think we should cover, let us know. Maybe we'll have them on the podcast. If you haven't already, please do subscribe and be the first to hear our new episodes. And also, don't forget to check out ICOalert.com to see the only comprehensive list of active and upcoming ICOs. I'm your host, Robert Finch, and I'll be back next week with a brand new episode.